Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley and today we're going to be doing the finale for my 2019 year-long project panning from A to Z. This has been such an interesting panning experience for me and I'm so glad that I did this because I learned a lot of really important and valuable lessons when it comes to how I use makeup, and it's going to hopefully allow me to apply those to the project pan that I'll be doing in 2020. Details on that will be in a future video, but yes, I will be embarking on a year-long project pan in 2020. But first, let's talk about where we landed on all of these products that I had chosen for this year. I had some really exciting successes and some really disappointing flops as well. So let's talk about them. So for the letter A, I chose this beauty right here. This is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Unlocked palette. This is their holiday palette from not this year, but from last year. And if you caught my favorite products of 2019, this was absolutely one of them. I loved using this product, even though technically it is a fail. So my goal had been to completely use up one of these products over the course of the year, and I did not succeed in that. So I came pretty darn close on this highlighter right here. I love this highlighter, but I did not actually complete it. And that was for a couple of different reasons. It could be because my goal was a little too lofty, or because I made different decisions on other products. So I tried to pull in basically a full face into this year-long project pan. So if we count each of the products that are in this, as well as some of the other products that I have later on in the alphabet, I technically had 2 bronzers, 3 blushes, and 2 highlights. If I had, I don't even know how to say that. We'll talk about it later, but sadly, this is technically a fail, although I loved every single time I used it. This is what I did take traveling with me a ton as well. So I do keep track of how many uses each product got. So when we talk about this particular item here, I didn't single out how many times I used the bronzer, how many times I used the highlighter, or anything like that, but the palette as a whole, I used a total of 161 times over the course of the year. So the next product, sadly, is also a fail, but again, I made a ton of progress. So this right here, this is, and you can probably see a little bit better with my hand not being there, but this is my Becca what is this technically called? Under Eye Brightening Corrector. I wanted to use this whole thing up. This is a deluxe sample size. I didn't do that. I still have a good bit of product clinging around the edges, but I genuinely fell in love with this product. I really enjoy the effect that it has on my under eyes. And spoiler, this is actually going to be rolling over into my 2020 project pan. So even though it was technically a fail, I'm still very happy with my progress on it because I didn't realize how much usage this itty bitty little pot here could get. So this I used a total of 204 times over the course of the year, and I didn't use it up. That's astounding to me. Oh my gosh. So one of my huge successes is this guy here. So this is my Becca bronzer, Sunlit Bronzer in the shade Capri Coast. And you guys, I finished the whole thing. I finished an entire bronzer. I have never ever done that before. I am absolutely amazed that I did that. So this took me a total of 201 uses to use up completely. My original goal on this guy had been just to hit pan, but because I did that so early in the year, it inspired me to extend my goal out to trying to use up the entire product, which I did. But that's why I say on this one, if I had not made that decision, then I would have just switched over to that bronzer full time, and there's a possibility that I could have used it up. Either way, I'm happy with the progress that I made on both of those products. And oh my God, I finished a bronzer. That's awesome. Now, we had some epic flops. Spoiler, they're all in the lip category. So let's talk about the letter D. The letter D is this guy right here. This is my deluxe sample size of the Bare Minerals lip gloss in the shade Daredevil. Over the course of the year, I used this guy 59 times and I got halfway done with it. Now, I stopped using it around April or so, and I don't really know why, but I did. If I had actually kept up the usage that I saw in the beginning of the year, I would have finished this guy entirely, which was my goal. I didn't hit that goal, clearly, but I had too many lip products. We'll just call that what it is. I had too many lip products going on at the same time, but it is interesting to see how many uses something has, and we'll kind of look at that a little bit more as we get into some of the more lip intensive sort of parts of the alphabet. I pulled in so many lip products because they were all deluxe sample sizes, and I got kind of a big head, I suppose. I had seen other girls who project pan, and they're able to go through those many deluxe lip products, the sample sizes, in a month. And so I was like, okay, there are 12 months in a year. I can pull in this many lip products. It'll be fine. I don't use makeup in the way that those ladies do. That has been made abundantly clear. So we'll talk about that more in the future. So the next one is a win as well, but it was a gimme product. This was my Tarte Empowered Foundation, Empowered Hybrid Gel Foundation. This only needed 4 uses to finish it off, so this was on its last leg when I pulled it into the project, but I needed the inspiration to finally get it completed and out of my collection. I enjoy the product, but I think I'd gotten a little bit burnt out on it, and I just needed that push to get me to actually finish it off instead of just leaving it sit and opting for other products. So this is a win, but it was a gimme, let's be honest. The next item for the letter F is my MAC Fix Plus, probably my favorite facial spray, period, I think. So this guy was just under half full when I pulled it in. This took a total of 38 uses in order to finish it up, and it was a win because my goal was to go ahead and finish that bad boy off. Another failure, but a little bit more of a surprising failure, I suppose, is, where are you? I guess if I had organized this a little bit better going into it. I know it's little, but I thought it was in here. It was my itty bitty teeny weeny deluxe sample size of the Juice Beauty liquid lipstick in the shade Gwyneth. I didn't like it. Ah, there it is. It is tiny, 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 tiny. So this guy right here, and I had kind of thought that as I used it, it would go down in the packaging. It didn't. I used this guy shockingly 16 times. So even though I didn't actually use it up entirely, I have to be stinking close. I don't like this product. It gets on my teeth no matter how thin of a layer I put on or how well I prep my lips or anything like that. It gets on my teeth. So this is actually going in the garbage. Just so that you know, this guy here is too. It's been open for a year, and I'm finding that I don't love glosses that have that kind of minty feel to them. My lips tend to get, I don't know, not chapped, but they just don't feel right. So I'm going to be getting rid of that guy as well. So for the letter H, my Becca Hydra Mist powder. This is not worth the money for it, I'll be very honest. I used it a total of 44 times. I did use it up completely, which was my goal. I normally would say that this is not a product that I would repurchase, but it did come in a BoxyCharm, so I do have another full size. So I will be using that up at some point, but again, it's not something that I'm going to make a point of going out and purchasing again. I think it's just kind of gimmicky. The powder itself is fine, but you don't get nearly enough powder for the price tag. In fact, I think I've got the full-size one. Yeah, I do, actually, right behind me. So this is the one that came in my BoxyCharm. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it's got so much just space in that packaging. Like you can see in there, there's just, for $38, I'm gonna need this sucker to be full, and it's just not. So I'm glad that I used it up. I'm fine with having gotten another one that's in my collection because I didn't have to like actually pay for it. But again, it's not something I'm gonna go out and buy myself. Anyway, I'm super rambly today and I apologize. The next product was also a win. This was my Marc Jacobs primer. This is the Invisible Undercover Perfecting Coconut Face Primer. My goal was to use this whole thing up, and I did, so that is a win. I used it a total of 86 times, and it was basically almost brand new when I pulled it in. So very, very happy with that success there. Now we're going to get into some of the lip products that I did not do so well on. And I can't find the card that I originally had marked the progress on, but the goal had been to finish them completely, and I didn't do that at all. So the first one is the Marc Jacobs Le Marc lip cream in the shade J'adore. Probably about halfway if I'm being generous. So I did use this guy a whopping 59 times. 59 times on a deluxe sample size lipstick. I did not meet my goal, sadly enough. The same is true for this lipstick here. This is also the Le Marc lip cream in the shade Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This one I didn't use as many times. This one I only used a total of 15 times. It's a fine lipstick. I don't have any problem with it. I just had, again, too many lip products in there, and I got to the point where I was just so over all of them that I didn't even wear like lip products at all. I would wear lip balm and that was it, because I was just so over the lip products that I had in my project, and yet I would feel guilty about using something else. Screwed up logic, I get it, but yeah. So for the letter L, I have another win. I had my deluxe sample size of the Tatcha Luminous Dewy Skin Mist. Used it up entirely, which had been my goal. It was also basically new. I was kind of hoarding it in the back of my drawer because it's such a fancy sort of product, and I wanted to use it for special occasions. And I've spoken about this before. I don't have a lot of special occasions. I don't go to formal events or anything like that. So this would have just never ever gotten used because that special occasion just would not have come around often enough for that. So that guy there I used a total of 45 times to kick it off. The next one is a ColourPop shadow in the shade Muse. I wanted to hit, oh, well, we've come apart. I wanted to hit pan, which I did. I kind of messed this guy up. I tried to bring it back to life, and it worked for a very short amount of time, but then it dried out even more so than when it started. So sadly, I will be decluttering this guy here. It's a gorgeous shade. Maybe once I've worked through some of my other Super Shock shadows and other cream type shadows, this is one that I would possibly purchase again, but right now I just have too many that I don't use often enough to make it worthwhile to purchase, because even though they're not expensive products, buying something knowing that it's just going to sit in a drawer feels very wasteful to me. So this guy met my goal. It took me a total of 17 uses to hit pan on that Super Shock shadow. Technically it is very, very easy to hit pan on those guys if you put in a good amount of pressure. I worked really hard not to do that, but just to use it very normally until I hit pan, and that's what I did. I have another lip product that I failed on. Again, this is a deluxe sample size. This is the Bobbi Brown lip color in the shade Neutral Rose. I really like this color. I like this formula. I used this 70 times. 70 times. And look how much is still left in that bullet. I am just, and I know that I've said this, I'm a broken record. It floors me how much product is in these little sample sizes here. I really thought that I would get a lot further on them, especially when I look at the numbers to see how many times I used them, and they're still not just around, but like alive and kicking, is amazing to me. Amazing. Okay, So on to O, which is another win. This was my Bare Minerals Rescue Complexion in the shade Opal. I used this whole thing up. I cut it open. I scraped it out. I used this whole foundation up. So it was definitely a win. It wasn't brand new to my collection. It was probably, I don't know, 2/3 full. The packaging was super opaque, so I couldn't really see, but just sort of thinking in my brain about how often I'd used it before this project, I would estimate about 2/3. So I am very happy with that win. It took me a total of 105 uses in order to use that bad boy up there. So very happy about that. I have this guy here. Yes, it's a lip product, so yes, that means it's a fail. So this is the Too Faced Melted Matte Liquid Lip in the shade Queen Bee. I really like this shade. It's kind of a dusty, rosy, purpley sort of color. This guy, though, I am going to go ahead and declutter. I used it a total of 13 times. This is probably one of the oldest deluxe sample sizes of a liquid lip that I have in my collection. I have probably 2 or 3 more of these similar size, but they're in the new packaging, which is how I know that this is older in my collection. So because I have those other ones and this one has been open for well over a year at this point, I am going to go ahead and declutter it as well. But yeah, I only used it 13 times, which is kind of a bummer. The letter R, this is my IBY lip liner. Why can't I think? In the shade, all right, my camera shut off. So backtracking a little bit. This is my IBY lip liner in the shade Rosebud. So this is technically a fail because I wanted to use this whole guy up right here, and I obviously did not. I did use it a total of 48 times over the course of the year. And for me, I don't feel as bad about this particular product because I don't ever use lip liners. So this, to introduce this into some sort of routine and to use it 48 times, I realize that that's not a true ton when you're looking at 365 days in the year. But I did get a good solid use out of this guy. So I am happy about it. I am going to hold on to it, and it may come back into another project in the future. I don't know, but technically a fail, but I did use it 48 times, which is good. So for the letter S, I had the Silk Canvas. This is a Tatcha face primer that I adore. I adore, and I did use it up entirely, which again, I didn't pull this into the project because it was old or because I didn't like it or anything like that. I pulled it in because I love it, but it's high end or higher end, I guess. And it was going to fall into that category of fancy products that I want to save for special occasions. And for a face primer that is, I want to say $54, $58, something like that, it does not need to sit in a drawer someplace and wait for a special occasion. So I pulled it into the project so that I would make sure that I got my money's worth out of it, and I did, which is very exciting. I used it a total of 97 times over the course of the year. Again, it wasn't brand new. It was pretty darn close, though. It was pretty darn close. Probably the most epic fail of this entire project is the letter T, and that is my nail polish in the shade Therapeuter. This is by Sally Hansen. It's the Color Therapy Argan Oil formula. And the irony here is that I love this shade. I love this formula. I just stopped painting my nails. I got busy. I got lazy. I don't know. But I just basically stopped painting my nails. I used it 5 times. 5 times over the course of the year. I think my original goal had been to finish it up completely. I have no idea whether or not that was a reachable goal or not. I've never really finished off a nail polish other than top coats, but even then those are pretty few and far between because either they dry out or I buy a new one and I start using it instead or all kinds of stuff. So I don't see myself pulling in another nail polish in the future. Maybe a lot further down the line, but certainly not in the near future because that was an epic failure. One that's also an epic failure, but not for lack of effort. This is for the letter U. This is my Tarte Deluxe Sample Size Blush. This is the Amazonian Clay 24-Hour Blush in the shade Unstoppable. Before I show you this product, I used it 172 times that I tallied. Honey, this still looks new. I mean, you can still see, like, if you've ever seen this blush, it's got like ferns or something all along the outer edges, and then it's got like a path down the middle. You can still very clearly see all of the embossing on there. You can actually still see part of the word Tarte. 172 times. This blush prevents me from buying new blushes. Every time I see a blush and I'm like, oh, that's really pretty, I would love to have that, this flashes in front of my eyes and I'm like, no, I have no need to ever buy another blush again because this is the only one I will ever need ever. I am going to keep it. I'm going to hold on to it. It is a lovely blush. It's just, you know, my new companion for life. Oh, I skipped the letter P because I have a degree in English, I swear. So for the letter P, it was just this little deluxe sample size of the Pro Filter Soft Matte Long Wear foundation, which I know it doesn't look like it, but it's been all scraped out in the container there. It just clings to the sides in a way that makes it look full still. I used this 11 times and I enjoyed it so much that I did buy a full size this year. So it is definitely a win. All right, so for the letter W, we have, no, I'm sorry, because again, letters. For the letter V, I had my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Vanilla. Again, this was not a brand new product when I pulled it into my project. In fact, I'd been using it for quite a while and it was still around and kicking. In fact, it took me an additional 87 uses to finish this guy off. I did, I believe, yep. I did attempt to pull the stopper. I scraped every little bitty bit out of there. I love this concealer. It is one that I would consider repurchasing, but as you've heard in previous videos, it is my goal in 2020 to work through as much as I can before buying any new stuff. So I don't think this will be coming back into my collection anytime soon, but in the future it definitely would because I really do enjoy this formula. For the letter W, I have this deluxe sample size of the Bite Beauty Liquefied Lipstick in the shade Whip. I really do like this. You can't tell by my usage. I only used it 15 times over the course of the year, and it's still around. Again, who would have thought? But I do really like it. I like this formula. I'm really concerned that Bite is being discontinued from Sephora because everything in their range is on sale and mostly sold out, which breaks my little heart because I really do like Bite as a company. And I've got a ton of their little deluxe sample sizes as well as some full sizes. This guy will be staying in my collection even though he's been open for more than a year now because I really do like it. And I am hoping that I can finish it off at some point. So this guy here, XYZ by Bare Minerals in their kind of soft matte sort of formula. I like this. I'm counting this as a fail. I didn't have an actual goal for it. I just needed something to satisfy the letter X. It was basically new. I'd only used it a couple of times before I pulled it into this project, and I only used it a total of 17 times over the course of the year. I do really like it. I am going to hold on to it, but for only having used it 17 times over the course of the year, that's why I'm counting it in the fail category, even though technically it didn't have a goal on it, but that's kind of sad. All right, and then I don't have the packaging because it's skincare and I wasn't thinking, and I ended up throwing it out after the empties video. But I did have a deluxe sample size of the Yuza Double Lotion from Aborian that I used up completely, which had been my goal, so that was a win. And it took me 93 times to use that up, which was staggering to me because it was, you know, just like a little, probably about this big. I mean, just a deluxe sample size. That thing went on forever and ever and ever. And then finally, we have, for the letter Z, I've got my Persona Cosmetics Cali Glow Highlighter in the shade Zuma. My goal had been to hit pan, which I did. And that took me a total of 96 times. This was almost a brand new product when I pulled it into the project at the beginning of the year. So, as it turns out, it is a 50-50 split. of wins to losses or wins to fails rather, when it comes to the items in this project. I don't feel like though that the numbers support my overall feeling and attitude towards this project. I feel very successful in this project, and I feel like I learned a lot of really important lessons about what for me works for panning, my makeup usages, things like that, and I think it's going to make me more successful in future projects. And I had some really huge wins in there. I finished up a whole bronzer. I'm not going to stop harping on that. So even the ones that without counting the lip products, even the ones that I failed on, I still got a ton of usage out of that perhaps I would not have gotten if I had not put them in this project. So the last thing to talk about is my unofficial pan that palette for 2019, my Lorac Mega Pro 4. Again, I learned a lot of lessons with this palette. So I didn't have any true goals. That's why it was my unofficial project, pan that palette rather. I don't like panning palettes. This didn't get nearly as much usage as I think it probably should have for this type of project. This is what we look like. So I was able to use up this shade called Pink Peony in its entirety. It was just a very soft, I mean, I guess it had a kind of a pink, but it was more of a cream color that leaned slightly pink, I guess is the best way to put it. I made a lot of good progress on Cool Taupe, Butterscotch, Mahogany, and Plum down here. I do also have a few dips going on in some of these other shades. So this palette definitely looks a lot more, well, is a lot more used than any other palette in my collection probably, because I've got a ton of eyeshadow. I'm doing an inventory and I've got a ton of eyeshadow. So Pan That palette doesn't really seem to work for me. I really saw a lot more success with my Pan Those Discontinued Eyeshadows palette. What words? Pan Those Discontinued Eyeshadows project that I started halfway throughout the year, and I got a lot more progress and a lot more enjoyment out of that project. So I don't foresee myself having a Pan That palette for 2020. I started in 2018 panning a little tiny palette thinking with just a handful of shades it would be easier. I found that that wasn't the case, so I moved on to a really big one thinking I'd have a ton of variety and that would help, and that didn't either. I just don't enjoy Pan That palette personally. I love watching other people and it just blows me away. Blows me away. You know, the amount of progress that some of these, you know, these wonderful YouTubers make. I don't fall into that category. But I did also learn that I don't really love the Lorac Mega Pro or the Lorac Pro eyeshadow formula in general. So I don't see myself picking up anything else from this particular line. Everybody has their own sort of personal feelings when it comes to what they prefer and what they don't, and this just kind of falls on the don't side for me. I am going to hold on to the palette. I was kind of debating whether I was going to declutter it or hold on to it because there are some shades in here still that I do quite like, as well as many shades in here that I really don't. So I'm gonna hold on to it and kind of evaluate later how I feel, but that is where things ended up landing with this guy here. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I know this is a longer video because I got super rambly in there, but I hope that you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you feel great about where you ended up in your projects, and certainly even if you don't, that you learned some really valuable things that you can apply to future projects and future purchases as well. So let me know, how did your projects go this year and how are you feeling about next year? Again, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you're having an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.